Okay, you can start tonight's webinar.
All right, welcome everybody to the October Equine webinar by UNL Horse. I am Jolie Walworth, Miss Rodeo, Nebraska 2020, your host for tonight's webinar. I'm going to be talking a little bit to you about my role as Miss Rodeo, Nebraska, as well as how I got to be Miss Rodeo, Nebraska, and a little bit of the pageant aspects of being Miss Rodeo, Nebraska, and horsemanship especially, since this is UNL Horse. All right, so we just want to go next slide. I'll just tell you guys a little bit about myself. So I am 22 years old. I'm from Ashton, Nebraska. Again, my name is Jolie Walrath. I grew up in a very, very small farming community, very rural. I helped out on my family's row crop and small cow-calf operation. That's where I grew up. And I was very, very involved in 4-H, FFA, and rodeo. I didn't have a horse right away. My Grandpa liked to refer to them as hay burners. I know we don't like to hear that. We all love horses, but I did get one fairly soon after that. I was about 6 or 7 when I first started riding, and I think we can all remember back to 4-H when we were Clover kids and you got to choose one project. Well, I chose horses, so I chose to show a horse at 7, and I kept on going until they wouldn't let me show anymore. And I also judged horses in 4-H, as well as, of course, went to the 4-H horse stampede and competed in public speaking, and the arts and quiz bowl was my favorite. So I also was involved in FFA in Nebraska. I did horse judging again in that, so pretty common theme throughout here. I do love to judge horses as well as ride them. I also competed in the veterinary science aspect of that, as well as job interviews. So I do think that that helped contribute to my role today and how I'm able to execute it. And then, of course, I've been involved with rodeo, pretty much as soon as after I got involved in 4-H and FFA and started riding my horses. I was at junior rodeos, and I went to barrel racing, jackpots, and fun shows and gymkhanas, things like that. And then eventually worked my way into high school rodeo, and then was also involved in an aspect on the college level. So I graduated from the University of Nebraska-Lincoln in December of 2019. So I am a fairly recent UNL alum, and I did graduate with my Bachelor's of Science in Animal Science with the equine option. So of course we're on here talking about horses. I love horses as much as I think all of us do, and I did choose to go on to study them in college. And it really did help me in competing for Miss Rodeo, Nebraska as well. While I was in college, I was on the horse judging team, which I really, really enjoyed. I did get to go see a lot of the big shows and see our amazing American quarter horses at work at some of the best levels, and I really enjoyed that. And then I also was on the equestrian team, so I had a great time riding draw horses, and that also helped to contribute to my horsemanship skills for Miss Rodeo, Nebraska. And then I also was a rodeo club executive member. I worked with the promotions side of that as well for the UNL rodeo team. I competed for Miss Rodeo, Nebraska in the summer of 2019, so there is a little bit of overlap there that you might be seeing, and that's because we have a 6-month period of lady in waiting. So I planned basically my whole college career and when I would graduate and my credits and everything towards graduating in December, because I knew in January of 2020, I wanted to be crowned Miss Rodeo, Nebraska. So I was officially crowned in January, and I just kind of kicked off the year since then. It's been a little odd, but I've had, a lot of great travels and a lot of great experiences so far. So I'm very, very excited to finish out the rest of the year, as well as going into next year. All right, we can go on to the next slide here. So let's talk a little bit about what is my role exactly as Miss Rodeo, Nebraska. What does Miss Rodeo, Nebraska do? So a lot of the times you see me, I'll be at rodeos interacting with fans, or I'll be on media and things like that. As Miss Rodeo, Nebraska, I'm an ambassador for the professional sport of rodeo, agriculture, and the Western way of life in the state of Nebraska. But that doesn't mean I stay in our state, because how do I do my job? I am going throughout the country, going to big rodeos, events, and things like that. So I represent the Western way of life. And what I mean by that is you don't have to be a rancher or involved in agriculture or grow up in a small farm town or anything like that to live the Western way of life. It's just a set a set lifestyle that we believe in, certain values and characteristics and morals that we uphold, and the way we treat, ourselves and others and our animals and the things that we believe in. So I also, as Miss Rodeo Nebraska, am responsible for educating people about the sport of rodeo. And I think that the best way that I can do that is to talk to as many people as I can at rodeos. So whether those are fans that are 3 or 103, rodeo is great for everybody, and I want them all to love it as much as I do, and understand what exactly we stand for in the sport of rodeo, and what's going on in the arena, the rules and the history of it, and why it's such a great sport. And then I also am responsible for generating new rodeo fans and generating the audience and promoting rodeo. So I do a lot of media work. As I said, most rodeos that we go to, all of us state queens will most of the time be asked to do a radio interview or a news interview, or, with a lot of these restrictions and things that we've had, we have been very, very active on social media. I've even started a podcast that I do every Wednesday on what's Western that week and what's going on in the industry. So very, very involved on media as well, and am just responsible for representing the sport of rodeo within the state of Nebraska while traveling outside the state of Nebraska, and of course everywhere in between within our great state. All right. Becoming Miss Rodeo Nebraska. So this might be the part that everybody's been waiting for me to talk about. Enough about me, right? So becoming Miss Rodeo Nebraska. How do you get to have the job that is what I was just talking about, being able to do those amazing things and travel throughout the United States and go to the biggest rodeos that there are, and have some of those really once-in-a-lifetime experiences that you can only have as Miss Rodeo Nebraska. So the pageant, or I like to call it the competition, because it is a competition. You're putting yourself out there to be judged. It's, that's not comfortable for anyone to do, but I love rodeo queen competitions or pageants because it is one of the only places where you will have these girls come together that have so much in common. And I'm just going to get on my little sappy soapbox here and say I have never left a competition without being personal friends without the rest of the with the rest of the girls there. So it's a great time for all of us there. We are usually there for, some pageants run for a couple of days, while Miss Rodeo Nebraska runs for 4 days, and Miss Rodeo America is a whole week long. So you have a long time to spend with these girls in very close quarters usually, and of high stress situations. So become friends very quickly. But the pageant, so let's talk about events. Horsemanship is a very, very important event. You're riding horses nearly everywhere you go as Miss Rodeo Nebraska, and I'll go in to talk about horsemanship specifically here in just a little bit. Speech and impromptu questions, those are very important. As you can see, I wouldn't be able to do the things that I'm doing, such as my podcast or webinars like this, or be involved with media without having the speech and impromptu portions. So for Miss Rodeo Nebraska, you'll prepare a 2-minute speech, and then you'll be asked to answer impromptu questions. And these can range from just personality-based or current events, equine or rodeo knowledge, whatever the judges feel like asking you, and you just have to be able to think on your feet while representing yourself well and showing your personality and your knowledge at the same time. So speaking of knowledge, we also have a written test. And in the written test, there's a pretty wide range of things that could be on there, honestly, from controversial things to equine science and knowledge, rodeo history and facts, equine industry trends, current events, and personality questions too. They might ask you to write down a joke or something like that. It's not uncommon to see things that, even written, they want to see your personality. It's very important, as your biggest thing that you're going to be doing throughout the year is interacting with people. And that leads me into interviews. So interviews, you will be one-on-one with your panel of judges. And we have personality interviews as well as a horsemanship interview specifically. So personality interview, they're just going to try and get to know you and kind of feel out what kind of person you are. What are your beliefs? What do you stand for? How do you interact with people? And, just to get to know who you really are, because otherwise the judges only see you on stage or on a horse. So this is their opportunity to really know you as a person and who you are. And then we have the horsemanship interview too, and they will ask you in horsemanship interviews lots of different questions. They might even have tack in there for you to identify. They'll ask you about equine diseases and genetics and I mean, the things they throw at you, sometimes you might be surprised, but, you know, they might ask you the life cycle of a botfly, which is odd, but I was very happy to have that equine science knowledge in handy, thanks to some UNL horse classes. And, you know, the range of things they can ask you in a horsemanship interview, lots of times it's rodeo knowledge, current events, knowledge about the rodeo you're going to be representing, and especially the Professional Rodeo Cowboys Association and their history and things that are going on with them as well. So with all these events, there's categories that you can win. So horsemanship is its own category. It's very important, as I said, and I'll go on to talk about that. Then they have appearance. Appearance is just how you represent yourself, how you're put together, and how you hold yourself throughout the entire pageant, whether that's on a horse, on stage, or in the interviews. And then personality is also something they judge throughout every single event. So they'll judge your personality on the back of a horse, and they'll judge your personality in the interview room on stage, just to see, you know, who you are as a person, because that's very, very important. And then, of course, knowledge and written test is another category. And knowledge and written test, the scores go together from questions that they may have asked you on stage to answers you may have given in your interview. And then, of course, your written test score is just what you scored on your test. And then there's also a congeniality category. So enough rambling there. Let's get on to horsemanship. All right, so horsemanship. I wanted to talk about this specifically because, again, this is UNL Horse, and I love horsemanship. It's one of my favorite events personally, and it is one of the most important, and I have definitely learned that this year, traveling especially. So we are provided as queens with our horses most all of the time. I think, you know, a lot of us haven't taken our own personal horses out many times at all this summer to rodeos because a lot of times it's just not feasible for us to provide the care for their horses that, you know, a rodeo contestant would be able to do in comparison to, you know, we have appearances from 7 in the morning until the performance that night. So it's important that we be able to do that job of representing rodeo, and then also, you know, get on our horses at night. So we have some great people that provide us with horses. We ride stock contractor horses, or, you know, just people from the community will provide us with horses. And some of them haven't been ridden all summer, and some of them have been going all summer, and they know their job. So no matter what you get, you just have to be able to handle the situation and represent yourself well. And that's mainly what horsemanship is about, is how you handle what that horse might give you that day. So when we compete in horsemanship, we compete on draw horses, just like the UNL equestrian team does. So you will draw a horse and you will ride a reining pattern or a horsemanship pattern, and they will judge you on that. And then you'll also do a queen's presentation run. And what this is when we run around the arena and we wave at rodeos, it's one of the most exciting things for a queen to do, I think. And sometimes it's your only spotlight at a rodeo. So it's important that you're able to execute that well. Then you will draw horses again. So this is what's fun. You'll switch horses with another competitor, and then you'll do rail work. And this is how the judges can see, you know, if some girl was having, you know, a really good ride, and then another girl might get on and have an even better ride. Or maybe you were having a tough time handling your horse, but another girl gets on and you were actually making that horse look pretty good. So this is how the judges can just really tell how you interact with all kinds of horses and how you are as a horsewoman in general. And then, of course, they want to see not that you can just ride, but that you also know your stuff. So after you get done riding, you will present yourself to the judges and do a little mini horsemanship interview there. And they'll ask you, you know, about your ride and how it went. And then they'll throw some actual questions at you, you know, about whether it's the tack that your horse is in, or, you know, different things to execute on a horse's body, or examine them, or, you know, just things that you have to do as a horsewoman in general. And they just want to make sure that you are able to do all of those things correctly. So horsemanship is a very important event, and I really, really enjoy it along with the rest of the pageant. And I hope that this summed up a little bit of the pageant experience and competition experience. And like I said, horsemanship is just very, very important. I've gotten to ride some great, great horses this year, some amazing horses, and I'm very, very thankful for that, and thankful for all that my experience has taught me, coming up from, you know, 4-H to FFA, rodeo, equestrian team. Very, very thankful for all those experiences and how they've contributed to my riding right now. All right, so that's all I have. And if you guys have any questions at all, I would love to answer any of them that you may have for me at this time.
I don't see any right now, Jolie.
All right, so I'm not seeing any coming up on the live. I'll wait a little bit more for some questions because I would love to be able to answer some if you guys have any.
I think you're good if you could end it.
All right, thank you so much for having me, UNL Horse, and thank you everyone for watching this month's October webinar. I am so happy to have been your host, and I hope that this was enjoyable for you. Thank you again for listening.